Hello, everybody. We will get started in just a minute. You can hear me okay. Give me a shout out in the chat box so I know you're hearing me loud and clear. All right, thank you. Thank you, thank you.
I can hear you, but I'm not seeing a chat box.
I'm not sure where that would be. There's probably a bubble on the screen that looks like a thought bubble. That's what I have on mine. That's for the chat. I don't know if you see that.
Not there.
There. Let's see.
Camera, screen, leave.
Yeah.
Screen shot.
Is it above your list of everybody that you see? Maybe.
There.
There you go. Awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Well, I know we got a few more people joining because we've got a number of people signed up. So we're going to give it just another half a minute here. For those of you who've joined already and on time, I appreciate it. Thank you. And just give another few seconds here and then we'll begin. Hello, Wanda. I'm seeing a lot of familiar names. Great. Okay, so we will begin. We'll have a few more people joining us as we go. So good morning, everyone. It is good to be with you today. My name is Jeremy Cherney, and I'm the owner of Tobin Solutions. That's what I look like. Today we're doing a new webinar, one we haven't done before, on Windows Power Tips. I've been thinking about this one for a while because I've been a Windows user for a long time, and there's always new features being added and even some old features that have been there for a long time that sometimes I still are new and discover. So we're going to go through this. I'm not sure how long it's going to go. I suspect we might finish up a little early depending on questions and that. At the end of this, you're going to get a brief survey. And if you can please complete that, we'll send you a copy of the slides so that you have that for your reference. And any feedback you've got, especially since this is a new webinar in terms of how it was presented, any other ideas for that or future webinars would be great. I would really appreciate that. Another thing that's a little bit different about this is I'm including a demo with it. So I'm going to be bouncing between a couple of screens. So we'll see how that works as well. I found this, I was thinking about this. So, I started selling computers back in 1982. I worked at a local computer store back when there were a lot of local computer stores around. And Windows started really in like 1985. There was this first version of Windows that was really kind of terrible. And, they kept improving it along the way. And then if you're someone who's been using it since the early 90s, you probably got into Windows 3.0 or 3.1 or 3.11, which were some of the popular ones that really started to take off in business. They had gotten some of the stability issues worked out, and there were more applications available. And, in when Windows 95 was coming out, I was working at a bank, and I was in their technology research and architecture department. And one of my jobs there was to evaluate new technology. And so I was looking, we were already using Windows 3.1, or maybe 3.11 probably. And Windows 95 was coming out. And so I was tasked to look at Windows 95 and see if and when we'd be deploying it at the bank. And I remember looking at this, and it was buggy when I first started looking at it. I mean, there were a lot of glitches. I think a lot of those ironed out before they rolled it out. But I remember thinking, wow, this is really the future of Windows. This is the future of networking and the internet. And I remember thinking, because I had this idea that I'm gonna go off and leave the bank and start my own business, that now Windows is so easy to use that no one's going to need my help anymore. I was absolutely completely wrong about that. Windows, just between that and the internet, just completely took off, and there's still challenges with having Windows work. And it's been a great friend and a great source of a good business that we can help out our great clients with over the years. And there's been a lot of versions of Windows out there, so I don't know where you fall in, depending on your age and when you started using computers, which was your first version of Windows, or maybe you were a Mac user and eventually moved over to Windows, or something like that, or maybe you moved away from Windows to go to a Mac, but it's been around for a long time. And so, the reason I bring this up is some of these tips and tricks I'm going to show you have been around for a while. Some of them are not new. Sometimes they're new to me. Um, and the other thing with Windows is, if you've been using it, if you're in one of the, been using it for, you know, 10 years, 15 years, 25 years, 30 years, you might have a lot of muscle memory around how you use Windows. And so today we're going to show you some power tips and tricks, and most of these are ones that I use on a regular basis. And so thinking, maybe you've seen some of these before, maybe you haven't. Hopefully you're going to see some new ones, or some new ways to use ones you might have already be using or thinking about. And give it a try for a while. Some of them, I think can really make a big difference in one's productivity and making Windows easier and more productive. But you might have to practice with them for a while. And like I said, there's that for some of you, decades of muscle memory. So give yourself a few weeks or a month or something and try out some of these tips and see if they can uh, have you use Windows more effectively, more fun in the future. So one of the things we want to talk about is snapping your windows, right? So why is it even called Windows? If you're old enough to remember a single tasking operating system like DOS, or you used a green screen, you had one application up on the computer at a time, and you'd have to get out of the program and then go into the next program. Well, with Windows, you're able to have multiple programs running at the same time. I know there were other operating systems that allowed that, but for DOS users, Windows was probably their first experience at that. And so one of the things people end up doing is they spend a lot of time moving around Windows, adjusting Windows on the screen, and Microsoft has some cool features called Snap and Snap Assist that help you keep those windows aligned. So let me show you an example of that. Do the switch to another screen. And so this is a virtual desktop I've got, and I'm going to launch Microsoft Edge. And if you're a regular user, maybe you haven't used some of these features before, you're trying to move things around and adjust them, and sometimes you might have two windows open, and you're trying to figure out how to get all those showing on the screen at the same time. and you kind of spend some time messing around this. It was great when a mouse was around, so it made this easier to move windows around. But some of the features that are there now make this easier. So one of the features is called snap. So if you grab the title bar of the window you're on, and I bring it, say, all the way up to the top and let go, it maximizes the window automatically. So that's pretty handy. Maybe I want to just bring it over in the corner. So if I go in there, and you'll see, it's a little hard to see, but right around that, you're going to see a little bit of an outline that just showed up, kind of in a gray, in a transparent around the window. And I let go, and now it automatically took that window and put it into the corner. So that's kind of handy, right? And I can take this one, do the same thing, bring it down there, and now I can adjust my windows that way. So that's really handy. You can also do it to the side. So if you're doing like side-by-side documents, you can go over here, click that, bring it over, kind of line it up to the edge, let go of the mouse, and now you've got your windows side by side. When you're in a window, some people like using the mouse, some people like using the keyboard. So if you're a keyboard user too, if you hold down the Windows key and then do the right arrow, you can actually move things around on the screen. You can use the up arrow, down arrow, and move things around. So that's handy to have your windows move. One of the other features is what's called Snap Assist. Let me get another window up here and you can see how that works. So, sometimes a great example of this is maybe you want to have two windows side by side. Maybe you've got a document up and like a PDF, and then you've got Microsoft Word open on the other side, and you want to have them both up at the same time. By using that same snap, so I'm moving it over here to the side, and I do that, Windows is smart enough to say, okay, you snap this one over here, but what do you want to do with this other window? And you might have two or three other windows open, right? You could have, it's Windows, you can have lots open. But then you pick the one you want, so I pick that, and now it automatically puts that on the other side. And if I had multiple windows, I could pick which one I wanted to do. And then it puts this neat little slider bar in there. So now I can do that. It automatically resizes the left window, makes the right size bigger because I dragged it over that way, but automatically resized the left window so there's no overlap. And I can go back and forth with that. Oop, I grabbed the wrong bar. Gotta grab it just right. Oh, a little tricky sometimes. So, but you'll get the idea. So this is one of those things, I definitely recommend playing around with. You spend a lot of time trying to have windows lined up on the screen, and this makes it really easy to do that. Another thing that Windows has, it has this idea of what they call virtual desktops. So, if you think about Windows, you've got the main desktop, and if you've got some extra monitors attached to your computer, you might have other spaces on there that you've got places to put documents. But even with that, sometimes it seems like there's never enough space with all the screens. Or maybe you're on a single screen, or you're on a laptop and you're somewhere, and now you've got all these windows open, and you want to be able to kind of organize these in a way so that it's easy to see them without having to click the window and move and all that. So Microsoft has something they call the virtual desktop feature. And there's a couple of different ways that can work. So let me go back to the demo. And the way you get to the virtual desktop feature is you hold the Windows and Tab key. And that brings up, now many of you might be familiar with the Alt-Tab key, which lets you cycle between open windows. So if you haven't heard of that one before, that's a great tip. And that one's been around for a long time. When they added the Windows key, they added this new feature. So you can still go here and you can click, and I can bring up this window, that kind of thing. But you now have this option at the top called New Desktop. So if I click on that, you're going to see I've got desktop 1, which is my main desktop, but I now have this other one called desktop 2. So if I go over and click there, you're going to see now, oh, where'd all my things go? Well, they're still there. I just have a new clean desktop that I can add windows to. So if I hold down the Windows Tab key again and bring that back, I can go back to this desktop. So that's one way to cycle through. But you can also use the Windows Control left arrow and right arrow. So if I do that, hold down Windows Control and right arrow, you're going to see I can go back to that um, empty desktop that I've got. And if I do Windows Control left arrow, I go back to the one I'm on before. So you can start to create, and you can create many virtual desktops. So this can be handy. Maybe you've got one desktop, you might set up, and maybe that's got, you're working on, a Word document. You've got another Windows desktop open. That's where you've got maybe your web browser open. You've got some social media open there that you're using. So it's a nice way to organize things. And then once you've got them in there, so if I hit Windows Tab again, maybe I want this um, tab here. Actually, let me go back, just do a quick change here so you can see a real obvious difference here with two different web pages. So if I hover over desktop 2, I'm sorry, go back on to desktop 1 because that's where my tabs are. So both of these web browsers are open on desktop 1. But let's say I want to take this one and I want to put this on desktop 2. I just click and drag that over. And now you can see on desktop 1, I've got the one window. On desktop 2, I've got the other window. So now you can start to see some of the power here. So again, if I hold down Windows Control right arrow, I've now got this window, so I can have this be a nice full-size window if I want. See everything here, and then do Windows Control left arrow, and I get back. So you can create multiple virtual desktops, and this is really handy if you're on a laptop, right? Have you ever noticed on the laptop, if you're traveling somewhere or you've moved it somewhere else where you haven't got those extra screens plugged in, you can do the same thing in Windows on a laptop, but you've got the touchpad on the laptop, so you can actually use what's called a four-fingered swipe. You can swipe left with 4 fingers on the touchpad or swipe right with 4 fingers on the touchpad and go back and forth to those virtual desktops. So I find this really handy. I think it's a great way to organize things, kind of keep the screens uncluttered, and really save on those mouse movements. Instead of moving all the different windows around to get to what I want to work on next, I just go to my next virtual desktop. So give that one a try and see if that makes a difference for you. Yeah, here you can see that last bullet point on the touchpad, that 4-fingered swipe left or swipe right. So I think that's a very handy tip. This is, Microsoft Edge is Microsoft's latest web browser. I want to just a little bit of history on that. So remember I was talking about back in in the early 90s when people were using Windows and the internet was really starting to come into full force in business. There used to be a web browser out called Netscape. Maybe some of you use that. Maybe you're having some fond memories or flashbacks on that now. Netscape was the first popular web browser for Windows. Became, why a lot of people started going to using Windows if they hadn't already, because they wanted to use this cool thing called Netscape and the internet. And Microsoft didn't like that back then, that Netscape was they saw the future of the internet. At some point they clued in. There was a very famous memo that Bill Gates had about the internet and realizing that Microsoft was a little behind on that. And so they really went feet first into the internet, and they created their own web browser, which was called Internet Explorer. And we used Internet Explorer for a long time. A lot of people, it came with Windows. For many of you, it might have been your first browser, and we used it for years and years and years. And after a while, though, Internet Explorer kind of got bloated. It wasn't that fast. Other browsers became more popular. There was Firefox and Google Chrome came out, and Microsoft realized they need to do something. So from the ground up, they rewrote a new web browser and they called it Microsoft Edge. And they started including that some years ago. And Edge was a fine browser. It was a good browser. But by then, Microsoft had no pun intended, lost some of their edge in the marketplace around really being the dominant internet player. And so other web browsers like, Firefox and Chrome, websites worked better with those, not just from a compatibility standpoint, but they had all those extensions and plugins to make web browsing easier. And while Microsoft, they created Edge, which was a great browser, they were not getting that support by the developers creating a lot of extensions and plugins for their browser. So they decided to rewrite Edge again. But this time what they did was, instead of rewriting it from scratch, what they did was they based it on something called Chromium. So what you may not know and what you want to know is that Google Chrome is actually based on an open source Google project called Chromium. And so because it's open source, other companies can use that and build on it. And so what Microsoft does is, and when new features come out from Google Chrome, oftentimes they start off in Chromium before they actually make it into the main Chrome application. So what Microsoft did was they based their new Edge on Chromium. And for a while, some people were jokingly calling it Credge, which was um, the combination of Chrome and Edge, and it increased the compatibility. So now, if you have a recent update, you will have Microsoft Edge, and it's based on Chrome. So a lot of the existing extensions and plugins that you might already be using in Chrome are now available for Microsoft Edge. And I started using it about 6 months ago, and I really like it. There's some neat features with it. It doesn't, Google really makes their money on ads, and so they're, using their web browser. There's always that idea: are they doing something with some of that data in the background? Microsoft has always been more business oriented, and it has always looked more at the privacy in a different way. So I started looking at Microsoft Edge and using that, and I've really been enjoying it. It works great. It's fast. The plugins I need are there. They keep updating it with new features, including the ability to have it cross-platform and the ability to synchronize between the web browser. So when you go into Edge, if you log in with your Microsoft account and then you launch Edge on another computer logged in with your Microsoft account, or you load Edge on your phone or tablet, because it's available for Mac, iOS, and Android, you all your settings, your bookmarks, everything gets synchronized between, including one of the new features they recently had, which are open tabs. So if you have tabs open on one computer and then you go to your phone, they'll be open in both places. So there's a couple neat features of Edge. I mean, if you're using a web browser, there's not much to go into as far as what web browsers do. But there's kind of a couple neat features that Microsoft has added. And one of them is something called collections. And I want to share that with you now. So I like, we're all familiar with bookmarks and favorites. Those are pretty indispensable. And collections I think they're a little better than bookmarks and favorites. What they do is they allow you to take those websites, but also other things like notes around websites, and create collections of them, and then uh, be able to create different collections for different things. They're really great for doing research. They synchronize across different devices, so you've got them with there, and you can even export your collections out to Excel or Word if you're doing a report. Maybe you're doing research on something. And so let me show you what that looks like. So if we go back over to this browser and I've got this open, let's say I want to do some research and I want to buy how to buy a new camper. We're a camping family. So go in and do a typical search for that. And now you start getting all the links and things like that. And it's like, camper's kind of a big purchase. Might do this over time. Might want to build a case to share it with my wife, maybe, and let her know what I'm thinking and that. So what I can do is I can go in and start a collection. So I go up to the collections option, and I'm going to start a new collection. And I can call this, our new camper. And so now I can start leaving that open here. I can close it out if I want. Either way, it doesn't make a difference. And I can say, okay, let's see. The only guide you need to buy an RV. Okay, let's start with Trip Savvy. So I'll click on that, and I start to look through here. and I start saying, okay, this looks like a pretty good website. So now what I'll do is instead of adding this as a favorite, I'm going to click Add Current Page to the collection I'm on. And now you can see it starts to build this up. So I can go over here now, go back, look for some other things here. Um, Best 5 affordable, that sounds pretty good. So again, I can click on that and I can go in and look and see if this looks like it's something that I'm interested in. Ooh, that one looks cool. Look at that. Looks like it's good, made for 1 or 2 people. So again, I like that. I can add that to the add that current page and start building up those items in there. But you know what? Maybe it's I'm also thinking here, I'm trying to percolate some ideas around this camper. So I might want to start making some notes here for myself. So I can click here and say add a new note and say, let me start thinking about, um, how many people should it sleep? Is it dog friendly? You can start making some notes, and now you'll see that you start building up this list of all the different items in there, and you don't even have to open it up. So maybe, okay, let's 6 tips for negotiating. That's good because I might want to go buy one. So instead of having to open that up, I can actually right click on it and say add to collections, and then just click the collection it's on, and now you'll see it brings that up. So yeah, it's pretty neat. So you can get there and you can start having these collections, and I can go back and now I'll see that collection. But if I was doing another collection, let's say I was researching something else, I can start a new collection, and you can start to build up those collections, and they synchronize if you've signed in with your Microsoft account across the devices. So if you're on your phone and maybe you're having lunch with a friend or talking to somebody like, oh, you really got to check out this camper, and you go to your phone and you're like, oh yeah, let me see that. Oh yeah, that looks like the camper for me. Let me add it to my collection. If you're doing that from your phone and you're doing that from Edge on your phone, you can add it right to the collection and it'll synchronize and all be here. So that's pretty cool. And the other thing that's nice is once you've got this collection listed here, now you can do something with it. So you can actually export it. So I can send it out to Excel, I can send it to OneNote or Word. I can open up all the web pages if I want. So if I say like here, like say send to Word, oh, I have to sign in to do that, so that's not going to work. But it would actually open up a Word document, and you would see links and everything kind of nicely laid out. It kind of becomes a nice report. So you could also use this. Maybe you're tasked with researching at your organization. Maybe they're like, hey, let's research new payroll company, or I want to research new copy machine or something like that. So it can actually put together a nice report that you can then go meet with your team on. So yeah, so I would check out Edge and check out collections. I think it's a pretty neat tool, and I've been using it a lot. I've got a number of collections that I've started both personally and professionally listed there. If someone's asking if it works with Office 365 or desktop Office for that, I just ran across that export feature, so I haven't used that. I'm not certain. I know when I did it earlier today, it opened up in a web browser. So it probably starts with that, and then once it's in the web browser, you can then save it off to Word that way if you're Office 365. But you can also share it to other applications as well. Another nice feature inside of Microsoft Edge is their web capture, right? A lot of times we're grabbing pieces of information from a website, and they've got a nice capture utility built into it where you can either capture part of the web page, you can actually capture the whole web page, which is pretty neat. If you've got a really long web page, and then you can mark it up or save the image and then drop it into a PDF or something like that. So I've been using that feature quite a bit, especially when I prepare webinars like this. So what that looks like is you can either have, go into your settings and add an icon up at the top, or you can just simply right click anywhere on a web page and go to web capture. So let me bring up something that's a little more useful page for that. So let's say I really like this and I want to, let's say I'm doing a presentation to really sell the camper to my wife and why we should be investing in this. And I just love this picture of the camper with the bikes. It looks like a nice family going out camping. And I want to grab a copy of this picture. So, I could do the regular, right click and save as image and that, but you can also use the web capture piece. So, whoop, a little sluggish here. So if I say web capture, now what it does is it brings up a little menu at the top here where you can either do free select or full page. So if I say free select, I can go in and I can go in and get a little bullet point here and grab what I want. And now I can either copy it, that sends it to the clipboard, and then I can, do something with it from there. Or I can say add notes. And with the add notes feature, it brings it up. And now I can say, hey, I want to draw on here, let's say, you know, maybe point an arrow or something. And, you know, that's us having a great time. So you can mock this up if you're doing this from a tablet-based Windows computer. It's easier to use the stylus and that. And I suspect they're going to be adding this by the ability to add text and other things in the future. So you've got that. And when you're done, you can save it as a file, save it as a JPEG, or you can, copy it again and put it somewhere or share it to somebody. Another nice thing, like I said, is that full page option. So, there's a lot to capture here. And if I wanted to put all this down as a picture and grab it that way, what I can do is, again, right click, go to web capture, and say grab the full page. And it automatically brings it up as an image that I can play with. And now you can see if I scroll down, it's got that whole thing copied, which is pretty nice. Maybe I want to drop that into a PDF or do something with that. So yeah, so kind of a cool feature, and that's all built in to Microsoft Edge. So I'd say, yeah, give that a try and see if that's something that works for you. The snipping tool. A lot of you probably know if you hit the print screen, you can get a copy of the screen. This tool has been around for a while. I think they started this maybe in Windows 7 or maybe even Vista. And it's still around, and it's a great tool for capturing parts of the Windows desktop. So it's a program you run, and you run it, you get some options. Now, it does look like they're starting to replace this, because when you launch it from Windows 10, it tells you to go check out a different snipping tool that's available. But the new snipping tool isn't as full featured as this, so I start with this. I sometimes use the other one if I just want to grab a quick part of it, but this one has more options, and I think until they get most of these options into the other one, this will still be around for a while. So let's take a look at that. So real easy, just click on your start menu and type in snip. Get the snipping tool comes up. And I'm getting this message here, the snipping tool is moving, and it's telling us in a future update it's going to be moved to a new home. Start trying the snip and sketch option. But like I said, that one works. It's nice because it's got a keyboard shortcut associated with it, but doesn't have all the features. So we're going to start with this and show you that. So what you've got is, first of all, what mode do you want to snip in? So if you click this, you can say either do a rectangular snip, which is what a lot of people do. Maybe you just want to snip the current window that you're in. Maybe you want to do a full screen snip or a free form. You pick the one and play with those. So again, real obvious, real easy. If I click new, it brings up this, and I can say, okay, I want to grab this part of the screen. It then brings it into the snipping tool. And now I've got some options. I can save it as a file. I can copy it. I can email it. This is real handy. But I can also mark it up. If I want to do that, I can go in and say, okay, I want to change to a red pen here, and I want to mark this up. Maybe I want to send this to somebody and say, what's this? You can type in, you can do some things like that. And then from here, I can say save or copy this or email it, and it'll have those markups in there as well. So that's handy. If I want to erase some of it, I can get rid of that. And if you want, you can even bring it right into Paint and edit it from there. So that's cool. Another nice feature of this, though, is this delay option. I don't know if you've ever tried to create training materials and you want to bring up the menu of something, and every time you try and do a screenshot, you bring up the menu and then you hit the screenshot and then the menu disappears. So this has what's called a delay mode, which is handy. So let me bring up an example here. So let's say I want to capture this Microsoft Edge screen, but if I right click on an icon, it brings up this menu. Normally I wouldn't be able to copy that. As soon as I click new, that menu would disappear. So what it's got is, it's called a delay mode. So if I pick this and I say, okay, let's delay 3 seconds. I click that and then I say new, and I right click and I bring up my menu. Notice it waited a little bit before it brought this up. Now I've got my selector tool. I can pick that, and now if I go in, I've got the menu in there. So sometimes you see that where things disappear. This gives you an opportunity to bring that in. So it's really great for that. Like I said, it's being replaced with the other snip and what's it called? Snip and sketch tool. So, but again, not full featured yet. So if I were to inside of here do Windows Shift S, that brings up this tool, which is now built into Windows this way, and you can pick different snips and things like that. But again, it's not quite as full featured as the other is yet. So it depends what you want to do. If you just want to grab a quick rectangle of something, this one's easy enough to copy it to the clipboard. If it's something more you're doing, you want to use those other ones. So cool feature. Take a look at that. Great for creating documentation, or maybe you got a help desk question or something like that. You want to share with someone what you're seeing. Another power tool, sticky notes. Notes have been around for a little while. Microsoft has improved on these. Some of you may have physical sticky notes attached to your screen. Remember to do something. Remember to call a client, or remember to pick your kid up from soccer or something like that. Sometimes you might have some information you use a lot. Maybe I don't know, some instructions on something that you're using a lot. So the sticky notes tool is pretty handy, and they've improved it. So it used to be just kind of a standalone application. Now, if you sign in with your Microsoft account, it'll synchronize your sticky notes between devices. So let's say you have a desktop and a laptop and use sticky notes, they'll synchronize between devices. And Microsoft has another program called OneNote, and what they've done is they've added sticky notes to that. So the sticky notes you put on your desktop will actually get synchronized to OneNote, and you can see those in OneNote for Windows or iOS or Android. So your sticky notes can now travel with you. So let's take a look at that. So easy enough, you click on your start and you say sticky notes, bring that up, and it brings up the sticky notes app. I'm not logged in with it right now, so I've only got the features that I've got, but I can say, hey, remember to call favorite client by the end of the day. And I can move that around, and that just stays on my desktop. So, you've got it there, and you can move these around. You can add more sticky notes. You can change the color of the sticky notes. So maybe I want a pink one for something and say, buy more coffee on way home. You can do some formatting of that. You can put pictures in here too. So you can get pretty crazy with the sticky notes. And yeah, it's nice. Like I said, you've got them. You could have, we talked about the virtual desktops before. You could have a virtual desktop full of sticky notes to remind yourself of things. I use this for a number of different little reminders, and there's certain codes I can never seem to remember. So, but I use a lot, so I just drop them on as a sticky note here. Don't recommend using this for passwords and things like that, but it's handy. and it's included with Windows. So I started using sticky notes and recommend you give it a try too. Okay, let's see. Getting close to the end here. So we all use the clipboard a lot, right? The copy and paste. Microsoft added a feature called the clipboard history. So it's a new version of the clipboard, and you have to enable it. It may not be enabled by default. And what it allows you to do is have multiple things, on the clipboard at once. And we've all done this before, right? Maybe you're in a document and you're trying to copy some of it out and put it into another document, and you go in and you click, one part of a paragraph, and then you copy it, and then you go to your other document and paste, and then you flip back to the first document and then grab a copy of a different paragraph or line and then go back to the other one, and you're kind of doing that copy and paste dance. What's handy is this puts all those on the clipboard for you, and they're persistent. And even it'll synchronize between devices if you log in with your Microsoft account. So be careful. One of the things you want to be careful of is, you don't want to copy and paste like passwords and things like that. So be aware of confidential information that might hang out here. It is encrypted, but, it is still the idea of you might have copying, social security numbers out of a document or something and not think about it. So you want to make sure you're going in and cleaning out your clipboard at the end. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So I'll go back here, close my sticky notes. Don't need those right now. I'm going to go back into Microsoft Edge and bring up my favorite web page. And yeah, so let's say I want to grab some of this and I want to put this into something. Maybe I'm doing want to grab some stuff off the web page to create a new brochure or something. So normally what I would do is, let's say I want to go here, I want to grab this, and I want to do, I'm going to get something else to open up here to put that in. So I'm going to put Notepad. So, you can do the right click and copy and then go in and do that. That's pretty obvious. But the other thing is I can say I can copy this. Oops. And, I can right click or do a Control C. But now instead of doing like a Control V or a right click paste, I'm going to do Windows V. And you're going to see that Windows V brought up a list of other items that have been on the clipboard, other things we've been clipping as we go through. So it saves this. Now maybe I want to grab this and I want to grab a copy of that, copy that, and maybe I want to grab this, grab a copy of that. Now I go into my other document, and instead of, now I can do Windows V, and it brings up all those things. What do I want to paste? Oh yeah, let's paste that. Great. Windows V again. Okay, let's paste this. Windows V again, let's paste that. So you can see how much easier that is, right? Instead of flipping back and forth, if I wanted to copy all of those, I'd be going back and forth to the documents. So it's handy, it's built into Windows, and it's kind of cool. So it can be a real time saver if you're doing a lot of copying and pasting. But it does save it. So if I want to go in and eventually get rid of some of those things, you want to go in, and I can go in and delete that item. So maybe my password did get in there by chance. Let's say I had password of dog123 or something like that, and that became my password, and I was copying and pasting that, and then go in. Oh, there it is. I don't want that to be in there, so I want to make sure and delete that from it. Or maybe I just want to get rid of all of it and clear everything. So handy, it's built in. Give it a try. See if that saves you some time and effort in your copy and pasting. And let's see where else we got here. So last thing, we have just a few last other tips. Some quick keyboard shortcuts, some other things you can look at, just some other kind of fun, useful tips that I find I use quite a bit. So I will go back and show you some of those. So, one thing, sometimes people call this the boss is watching over my shoulder icon, or maybe you just got a lot going on the screen and you just want to get rid of it all. So what I can do is if uh, one of the things I can do is I can do a shake of the title bar. So if I grab this and say, shake it back and forth with the mouse, it clears the whole desktop. Doesn't close the programs, but it clears the whole desktop. So now all I've got is this one window that's open. So that can be handy when you're trying to clean things up. Or maybe you're doing a presentation, right? You got a Zoom call and you're want to share your Windows screen and you've got a bunch of stuff up on the screen and the PowerPoint presentation you want to share, you can just give the PowerPoint a shake and all the other ones will minimize. So that's a great use case for it. I find I'm using a lot, especially with Zoom these days, is going back and forth with my Bluetooth headset. And it used to be kind of a challenge to go into Windows to reconnect it. There's a Windows key. So if you do Windows K, I don't have any Bluetooth items on this, but it brings up this connect window on the side. And in the connect window, if I had my AirPods there, you'd then see AirPods, and I would just be able to click on that and instantly gets my AirPods. But I've got other Bluetooth headsets as well. If one dies because of batteries are out or something, so I can connect to those different devices. Maybe I want to connect to an external speaker. Makes it real quick and convenient to connect to that. I'm not going to do the Windows L key right now, and please don't do that right now because it's going to lock your computer. But we take security seriously at Tobin Solutions. We consider ourselves security strong, and we always want to make sure when you're walking away from your computer that it locks. And some people have an automatic lock, but if you do Windows L before you leave your chair, that automatically locks it. Another thing that's handy, a lot of people are often going into Windows Explorer and they're clicking on the file or going in that way. If you do Windows E, that opens up Windows Explorer, so that Windows File Explorer, so you can go and find what you need to find. So that's handy. And the last thing, we're in a kind of an emoji world here. A lot of people are using emojis in social media or in texting or things like that. And sometimes we want to drop them into emails that they're using. And Windows recognizes a few of them. But if you do Windows period, it brings up a little emoji keyboard. So you can go in and find the different kinds of emojis that are there, different symbols, and um, this is a text one, so it's just going to bring it up in black and white. But if I had an application that was supported the colors, it would all be there. And yeah, someone looks like someone locked their computer. So yeah, sign in again, and that'll unlock your computer, like you sign in the morning. User ID and password. So those are some handy tips. Like I said, I've been using these. Hopefully you find some value in some of these, something to make Windows a little more fun, be a little more effective, a little more efficient in what you use. That concludes our tips and tricks. If you've got some tips and tricks you want to share with us, let me know. I can include them in future presentations. If you've got some things you wish were a tip and trick, let me know. Sometimes we can find those or find another option for those. And like I said, after this, you're going to be getting a survey. So please complete that. Let us know how this went for you. Give us any feedback. It's really valuable to us. We do look at that and use it to improve the quality of our webinars. You'll also get a copy of the slide deck and you'll get a link to the YouTube video when this goes up. We're also available to speak on other topics. I know many of you have been to our security webinars. Security is so important these days. So for any organization, it's your business, or maybe you belong to nonprofit, or you sit on the board somewhere, or you're in a community group and you want to talk about cybersecurity, bring us in. We're happy to do those kind of presentations. You can find us on social media. You can get on our email list. You can reach me at that phone number or that email address. And thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here today. I'm gonna, if you got any questions, drop them in the chat, or I can unmute you as well. Feel free to unmute yourself if you want to ask a question. And otherwise, be safe, be well. Yesterday felt like a first day of spring. I was out walking, so get out, get some fresh air, and enjoy yourself. And thank you so much. Seeing a few thank yous and that. Someone's asking about a presentation on VPNs. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Happy to do that at some point. Talk about different VPN options and how to use those effectively. Seeing some thanks. You're very welcome. Thanks, James. Thanks, John. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for being here. See a few people saying they got some good tips coming out of here they didn't know existed, so that's great. Oh, you're awesome, Eric. Thanks for being here. Yep, glad you saw some new things there. Hopefully that helps you. I know you're a real power user, so hopefully this makes a difference in your day-to-day usage. Great, Brian. Break down that muscle memory. Yeah, there's some of these things I still go back to old habits. It's amazing. But man, when you get these new ones in place, it can definitely make a big difference. Looks like mostly thank yous and a few comments on the value they got, so that's great. We'll stick around for another minute or two, otherwise we'll uh, end the presentation here. Oh, someone wants me to go back to the copy and paste shortcut. Yeah, I'm happy to go back to that. So um, let's see. You're probably talking about this one with the clipboard history. Um, assuming that's what you were talking about. So yeah, so you're probably familiar with the copy and paste as far as using right clicking and copying and then right clicking and pasting, or some people use the keyboard shortcut Control C to copy and Control V to paste. If you add in turn on the Windows clipboard history, it then brings it up. It actually saves multiple copies in the clipboard history of the different things you're working on. So instead of just having one thing on the clipboard, you can have 10 things on the clipboard and it saves it. So maybe you've always got something you kind of sign off with in your email, or you've got some boilerplate of something you're always dropping into a document. You can actually save it to the clipboard. So what that looks like is an example. So if I open up Microsoft Edge here, and let me just go to a website that's got some great text on it. Let's say I want to grab some of this, and instead of putting it, normally let's say I want to copy all three of the paragraphs from these three white boxes here. Normally, you click on it, copy, go into their document, paste. So I'd kind of go back and forth and do that dance. Instead, what you can do is if you have enabled the clipboard history, you can go in, right click and copy, or I can go to this one and do Control C for copy. Doesn't really make a difference. Grab what I want. And now when I go into my other document where I want to do that, instead of doing, if you do Control V, that'll just paste in the last thing you did. But if you do Windows V, it brings up this clipboard of all the things that are on there. So now I can click those. You keep hitting it, grab the ones you want in any order you want. And, there was a caveat about being aware about putting confidential information because this does get saved. And, you can delete certain ones or clear them all when you're done, or pin them to the top if they're a favorite. I should have mentioned this before. This is a little nice feature. If there's one you're using a lot, you can pin it and it'll go to stay at the top of your clipboard. And if you sign in with your Microsoft account, it'll actually synchronize the history between devices. So if you're like on a desktop and a laptop and you sign in both with your Microsoft account, your clipboard will be synchronized between the two. So very handy. So hopefully that got you what you needed. Thanks, Sarah. And any other questions, comments? Hey, Herb. Good seeing you or hearing you, seeing your message. Thanks. I'm glad the clipboard history is going to be useful. Uh, that's great. All right. Well, I'm going to sign off here in a few seconds unless anyone has any last minute requests. Otherwise, thanks again for being here and have an awesome rest of your day and week.